Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is now time for us to go ahead and get ready to start the 2022 annual NFHS policy debate topic selection meeting. Thank you all for being here in person. Just so as you know, we are live streaming this on YouTube as well for any of your fans that would like to hear you speak. You can let them know that they can find it on the NFHS page and they can listen to the meeting. Unfortunately, if you're on YouTube, you cannot interact with the meeting. You can just listen to what's going on. All right, if you would like Wi-Fi access, please use the Marriott Envoy Conference network, and then we have a very cryptic password, debate topic 22. All right, so welcome everybody. Oops. Hold on. Oh, I know what I did. There we go. What we would ask you to do is please put your phones on vibrate or silent or off. For the meeting. One thing we do not want to have, especially tomorrow during the topic on defenses in this room, is for a phone to go off and derail the meeting. So please make sure that they are in vibrate or silent or off, or you can leave them in your room. Do whatever you want to be here, present, engaged in the room. A brief overview of what we're going to be doing for this couple of days. So today, 1 p.m., congratulations, you're all here on time, where you're supposed to be. This is our opening general session here. We'll be doing the Marshall subcommittees around 2 o'clock, and then we'll do the topic resolution review before we go out for our evening activity. Tomorrow, we start at 8:30 in the morning. We'll start with the resolution wording review. We'll have lunch. We'll continue at 1 o'clock. Tomorrow is a big day with 13 topic papers to discuss, so be ready for that day. It's my pleasure to give a special thank you to our great hosts here in the Kansas City Country Club Marriott. They have been great to work with. Laura, if you see Laura around or any of her staff, please thank her for doing a great job getting it set up here. Also like to thank our state host, Craig Monteifel from Kansas. Craig, there you are. So he's going to be the guy who has all the local answers, as well as Marty Marsh and Jason West from some friends over in Missouri. So if you guys want to raise your hands, they will tell you everything on the Missouri side. So we got both states here on a border city of Kansas City. So I'm going to open up first to Marty and Jason. If you guys have anything you'd like to welcome this group with.
Just certainly happy that you all are here with us today. Welcome to the state of Missouri. Glad that you're here. Look forward to being a part of it. We can continue to make your stay more enjoyable. Please let us.
Thank you. And to give a formal welcome, we're going to have Craig Monteifel come up here and give a formal welcome, or wherever you want to stand. Okay.
Well, like Marty said, welcome. We've actually been planning this since 2019. We're supposed to be here in 20 and then didn't happen to do COVID and we went to the walk because of the hotel situations. Very glad this year. Just some real quick thank yous and Mr. Bill Patrick, our executive director, actually is home ill and it's been close nights. He will not be here. He was really looking forward to register the process and wish him best starts feeling better real soon. Also, a big thank you to Pam Nokomis. She's helped throughout the process from really since 2019. We started talking about this, and we're here. We're glad to do that. And, there's also some fountain. You want to explain the fountain?
One of the activities you clearly can do that I did with my humanities classes at Topeka High School was to take the architectural fountain tour of the plaza. And those brochures are out here on the table. And it's a great tour and it's a great opportunity to get acquainted with history of its class.
The Polo's Mallory in our office at State High School Activities Association signed Polo insignia there, and I will tell James that it is top that little skyline of the picture. We did purchase the copyright permissions for that.
Great deal. Great deal. Copyright's no joke, guys.
Something that costs great, but tonight we will have a charter bus that will hold 55 of us. We will load that first. They will be right out front of the lobby. There's a bus lane out there in front of the hotel. That's where she will pull up, and then it's only about a 10-minute drive to the American Jazz Museum and the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and they're in the same building. We'll have about an hour and 15 minutes, you will, because we've rented it after hours, and we'll be the only ones in there in the Jazz Museum. And then we'll go over into the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and that's actually going to be our dinner venue. Anybody ever been there before? Yeah, so we will eat right in the infield, which we'll figure out what that is here pretty quick. But and then since I was setting this up, I chose my favorite place in Kansas City, which is Kansas City Joe's. We've been going there for years, my wife and I. So we'll have dinner there at the venue. I will tell you that it is the first Friday art walk down in the 18th and Vine area. So there's going to be a lot of activity down there. There's vendors, lots of different things going on. So if you want to tour through there or whatever, go down there after dinner, that's fine. But the bus will leave right at 9 o'clock. That's the only transportation we have coming back here to the hotel. Now, if you want to stay down there, that's fine, but you'll either have to walk or find an Uber probably. Okay. But if I can help anything with that process, whatever throughout the weekend, feel free to ask. Once again, welcome.
Thank you, Greg. All right, it's now my pleasure to introduce our wording committee for this process. So I'm going to start off with Colton. He'll introduce himself and he'll introduce the rest of the committee. So Colton.
Hello, everyone. Those of you that weren't in here for the new person meeting, Colton Gilbert, I'm from Arkansas. I'm going to be coming to these meetings for 8-9 years, something like that. I wrote the CJR paper and the Middle East paper a few years ago. It's been a pleasure here to be on the wording committee, but we've also got Eric Odo, Jennifer Adams, Sam Normington, Justin Brimmy, Colleen, forget her last name, Mooney, there we go. We also have Rich Edwards here and also Kevin. I'm sure they can introduce themselves if they'd like, but happy to have you all. Just because we're sitting here doesn't mean we're the end all be all. We need as much information as possible or input as possible, but great to be here. Oh, I'm so sorry. And you're in my work, Marshall subcommittee. How could I forget Jennifer LeSueur? I'm sorry.
These are your wording committee members. You'll see them at the dinner table here throughout the day tomorrow. It's now time for us to find out who else is in this room. So what we're going to do is go around the room. I'm going to point this way around. We'll do the inner loop around. Give us your name and the state you're from, and we'll try to do this in rapid fire succession. So,
Brian Gaston, Oklahoma. Tommy Snyder, Oklahoma.
Morgan Ivy, I'm from Georgia, but I'm the NBC.
Warren, Iowa.
Anyone follow me?
Great.
Very long time.
They have Thomas, Kansas,
My Harris fans,
UK, Michigan.
Harry June.
basically, for
Chris Harris, California.
Tasia Baker, New York.
Cheryl Kessler, Massachusetts. Mark David, Illinois.
Walbert, Kansas.
Tampa, Kansas.
Glen Adams, Texas.
Jana Riggins, Texas. Mary Ruth Cohen, Colorado. Rich Clapper Davis, Mississippi.
Darren Meyer, Mississippi. Tim Cross, Pennsylvania. Fort Sylvester, Minnesota. Tom Austin.
Nice.
Great, welcome everybody. My name is James Weaver. I'm the Performing Arts Director for the NFHS, and happy to have all of you here with us today. All right, you can feel free to use social media all you want while you're in here. Just let me ask you to be professional. So if you disagree with what's going, please don't post there. I can't believe how this crap is going. Use professional terminology, right? Also, if you're going to do something, we do have the TSM22 hashtag if you really want to get fancy with how you do. All right, as we talk about policy selection for the topics, there's three things we want to keep philosophically at the forefront of what we do. And we're going to talk about these a little bit just to make sure we're a reminder of what our goals are. First thing we have to do is all topics have to be students first in approach. Is it something that the students will find approachable? Is it something that they will have access to materials on? Is it something that they will want to debate for a year? Students first philosophy is what we always shoot for here. The next thing is balanced resolutions. Is there enough of a balance between the affirmative and the negative to make sure this is a good resolution that lasts for a year? We want to make sure we have relevant topics. Some topics give relevance thrust upon them, such as the one coming up this year with Bridge Technologies and NATO, because NATO is kind of doing the thing. Sometimes relevant topics stay relevant for a decade or more. So we just want to make sure whatever we do today will be relevant. Here are all the topics we're going to be discussing over the next 2 days. So we'll be intimately aware of all of these as we progress to the next couple of days. On the posted documents, you'll see on the website, there's a meeting agenda and schedule, delegates list, the Marshall Subcommittee purpose documents, and all the ballots for Sunday are all listed on the debate topic page on the NFHS. If you don't want to go to this page for things, we do have it listed everywhere else as well. And for the ballots on Sunday, we'll have QR codes up on the screen. So you scan with your phone, do your voting if you're the delegate. One of the things we do here is we actually have to ratify the current topic. So this is the current topic, and I apologize the dates of this. I realize I missed this. So just imagine this as 22, 23. All right. So this is the correct resolution though. So what we'll do is we'll read the resolution out loud. We'll take a hands up vote to just ratify this resolution and we'll move forward. So the United States federal government should substantially increase its security cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in one or more of the following areas: artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and cybersecurity. So by hands up vote, we'll ratify this resolution. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those not in favor, you can raise your hand. And any abstentions. Okay, so this is now officially the resolution for this coming year. Now that that's ratified, you have the opportunity to purchase the Policy Big Quarterly. It's $7 a book, $28 a set. And it is all done. If you get it here, there's no shipping. If we run out of them, we'll go ahead and ship it to you for free out. All right, now is our time to do the topic introductions. So authors, the order that we showed on this screen is the order we're going to be going in. It is alphabetical. So we didn't keep that very cryptic. But what we'll do is every topic author will have a chance to come in and introduce their topic to the body at large. You'll have to give 2 minutes to do that. Kevin is setting a timer, I believe. And on this timer, when it goes off, we'll politely ask you to stop. If you keep going, we'll eventually less politely ask you to stop. But 2 minutes to introduce, and we'll start with Clint and aging in America.
Yeah, I think I changed mine to old people in America, but I think that would be a good start, right? I will admit that this topic was born out of selfishness. I was never aware of the problems faced by the elderly in America until I had to deal with my mother-in-law's illness and her aging. It's almost repugnant how we treat the elderly here in the United States. If you make enough money or you don't make any money, you can pretty much get taken care of in your old age. But if you're that middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, you basically have to have everything stripped from you before the state will actually help kick in any kind of aid. This goes for healthcare. This goes for end-of-life care, palliative and palliative care, things like that. This is something that we don't talk about because it's just something that is kind of out of sight, out of mind. But everybody in their life, from youngest kids to us, they were going to deal with this at some point. So I think it's an important issue that we need to talk about. And I think there's a lot of things that kids can learn from actually looking at the problem now and seeing what the state can do for the aging.
Agricultural subsidies.
I feel like I should say, is anyone not ready? I'll articulate 3 reasons that ag is the best, one of the utterly best topics under consideration this weekend. First, agricultural subsidies has the potential to provide a year of excellent high-quality debate while still remaining relevant and accessible for less experienced students. The 2018 version of the Farm Bill is set to expire in 2023, which means that if this topic were selected, students would be debating provisions of the Farm Bill for which there should be an increased amount of literature criticizing and supporting it. Second, agricultural subsidies is relevant and accessible. When students buy food, they're voting on what kind of food system they want. This means that ag is uniquely accessible to students and easy to relate to their current life. Students think about food choice. For rural students, there's an obvious connection to farming. For urban students, there's connections to food deserts, subsidies being taken from urban areas and redistributed to rural ones, and the obesity epidemic. Novice students will be able to learn about factory farms, a major dispute in the literature, and connect what they are learning about in debate to the real-world choices they make. And it also has the appeal of the gross factor to keep things interesting and engaging. Finally, a unique variety of ground should make this topic relatively easy to research, and students have access to a diverse array of negative arguments, such as counterplans, critiques, disadvantages, and topicality arguments. Students who favor a critical approach can draw on a wealth of literature that analyzes the racist history of farming, xenophobia, sharecropping, and immigration, as well as greater access to identity arguments. For disadvantages, there's a great core topic dissat in the form of the Food Crisis PA, as well as many other dissats related to subsidies, the economy, and international relations. For counterplans, there's a variety such as offsets, caps, new subsidies, and many others discussed in the paper. This topic truly is something for everyone and would be legendary. Not voting for ag would be a serious mistake.
So this topic paper came out of initially our league had a discussion over what paper we were going to write as a team, and through that discussion, is that a Black male, I was hearing election reform and democracy, and there were certain issues that I felt like were being discussed too casually. Like if this happened, it really sucked. And I'm thinking it makes me scared for my life if these things happen. So essentially I said, whichever topic the committee decides to write, I'll write a second paper. I solicited the assistance of one of my former debaters to help me with the paper. For those of you who have looked at it, the reason it's short, some foreseen and unforeseen circumstances happen, but the bones are still there. And one of the reasons civil rights reform is important because it's not temporary. It's not if we don't talk about this year or if we don't
we have the whole year, this is a topic that pertains to the vast majority of Americans, and even if it doesn't directly pertain to you, people have strong opinions, whether it's students or adults. So it's great for that reason, to get interest. It's a very flexible topic. One of the issues we had was kind of narrowing the scope. But even without kind of arbitrarily narrowing the scope, there's many off-case arguments that kind of cross the board. Like, it doesn't matter what you focus on, these off-case arguments still work. And it helps people from all political, the entire political spectrum, take some of the emotion out of talking about it and talk about the actual Constitution and what it says, what it doesn't say, what it should say. And so,
So I think a good debate topic basically has three things. First is that it fulfills a particular pedagogical gap. In this context, one of the issues that teachers frequently cite of an area that they wish that they were able to do more effectively is climate change. Public polling that cited in the topic paper, in polling of teachers, states that one of the concerns that they have is that classes that currently teach climate change are very much focused on the harm. So, for example, what causes climate change, a physics or chemistry class, or the sociological effects, so the migration effects or physical effects on the planet. But very few of them are actually focused on the solution, which in this context is very important because policy to be able to teach students how to develop solutions, to debate about solutions, and address a significant amount of anxiety in teenage minds. The second thing is that it has a well-defined mechanism. The resolution that I think is best in the climate area deals with increasing greenhouse gas restrictions. So that greenhouse gas restriction was a phrase used in a college debate topic about a decade ago. It's well defined. It basically means that there must be a legal impediment put in place to prevent continued greenhouse gas pollution, and that's opposed to other mechanisms the government can use. And the third thing that I think good topics have is that they generate clear controversy. So, there's not only the controversy that exists about whether or not climate change is happening or harmful or real, but there's also controversies about the best approach to solving climate change. Ones that are most economically efficient or ones that produce a meaningful global effect. And those controversies, I think are fruitful for me. Thank you.
Okay, fine. All right, comprehensive unit report.
Hello, everyone. I think the comprehensive unit report paper, I think it's a really important topic. I think that, anyone who works in education or works with students, the biggest thing that kids are obsessed with is the phone and the internet. And honestly, it's a pretty big obsession of mine as well. I mean, I scroll on TikTok for hours mindlessly, but these things actually have a really major impact on our lives. And I think there is not a lot of conversations that are currently happening about the internet and how we can make it safe. Topic that's really engaging to students who are new to debate, or students who are currently in debate. And I just think that this is also an ever-evolving topic. Even after I wrote this paper, unfortunately, we all know what happened to the debate, right? A new conversation that came out of it, data that we put into some of these applications can be used against people who live in states that are anti-abortion. So I think this is a really important topic because I think it allows students to actually frame the reality that they're going through, right? People always don't really know how the internet works, don't really understand how social media works. So this allows them to have discussions to actually shape the world that they are going to live in and giving them skills to be the most successful reality that they were living. And also, I think since the last 2 years only communicating on the internet, we're all literally on the internet right now. Debate doesn't progress as an activity without the internet. I think it's time to think about and figure out the best way to make sure that we're protecting all the users and protecting ourselves. Okay.
Okay.
I think that the cryptocurrency topic would be an excellent idea because it's accessible to a lot of different types of literature. It's extremely timely, and it's one that would be an example of fun resolution that will last in students' minds. So for me, a similar analogy had when I personally debated on the surveillance topic. I felt like it was really nuanced while still being able to touch a lot of other areas, be that economic reform, be that the impact on the environment, et cetera. I think the cryptocurrency regulations provides an excellent space to talk about new financial instruments that are extremely relevant to cultural conversation, the top of social media, the top of news discussions, who's investing in NFTs and what. And the question of regulations makes it a really, really fundamentally sound debate topic because there's half and egg ground that people are able to discuss on the benefits of those solutions. So I think it finds a very nice niche in that there's research coming out. Since the last cryptocurrency paper, there's been an explosion of literature and activity that makes it a right topic to debate. And I think that it develops well as a topic over the course of the year because advantages will become more diverse. Mechanisms will be able to be specified more, but you're never going to lose the core question of regulation, which makes it consistent with novices or varsity debaters that want to have more technical experience. They can still maintain that while still being able to provide tons of room for nuance for varsity debaters that want to create that very, very specific counterpoint, a very, very specific critique argument that they can weigh to. That's why I think cryptocurrency would be an excellent topic to explore.
Equality, President.
Okay, so to save the story second verse, I think there's three things that make a good topic. First is a particular pedagogical gap. In this case, that pedagogical gap for students at the upper echelon of economic prosperity in the United States is empathy. The inability to understand the plight of those that are in the lower rungs of economic echelon in the United States. Those that are in the lower economic echelon in the United States, a lot of those students or teenagers or people feel as if that status is preserved or as a result of kind of a meritocratic system. And this topic would be one way to teach students that that's not the case. Second, it has a well-defined topic mechanism. The ideal mechanism, according to the topic authors, we think would be fiscal redistribution, which is a very well-defined term. It requires taxation of the rich and redistribution to the poor. A little bit more complicated than that. But basically, there's very good evidence that says that that is the mechanism that would be used. And third, that would generate a clear core controversy, which is it better to force the government or to have the government intervene into the market to redistribute resources, or is it better to kind of let the private sector net it out and allow that process to continue? So there is a controversy not only associated with whether or not it's worth preventing economic inequality or whether or not we should be focused on different things like absolute poverty, for example. And there's also a clear controversy about whether or not or what the economic reaction is to substantial redistribution of resources by the government. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a paper that was brought before the committee in 2013 and 2019. And in each of those cases, there was a question about the timeliness of that. I think the events of the last 2 years and the prospect of what we're likely to see in the next 2.5 years should convince everyone in this room, and frankly, every one of the 310 plus million people living in the United States, that this topic is now as timely as it's ever going to be. And you just have to look at the fact that we have had a multitude of election deniers sent to the general election in Arizona and other states recently to tell us that this may be one of the issues that if we don't get the chance to discuss it now, we may as a society never be able to discuss it again. The other thing to think about is that of your debaters who are currently debating for you, there are going to be a number of them who in the 2023, 2024 season will actually be able to vote for the first time, which I think will give it an additional saliency. So I yield back to Alice.
With this topic, we're confident that experienced Knox debaters both are going to be able to argue this. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. They can explore the role of the United States, as a standalone nation with simple established changes in policy, or debaters with multiple years of experience can fully engage in the complex and lengthy history of the military and politics between Israel and Palestine. Resources are unlimited. It is not an equity issue with this topic, from Al Jazeera, New York Times, research journals. Basically, I had to stop adding sources, a simple Google search to find, credible, reliable information about the topic. They will be able to dig into the history of the region, military action on both sides, any of the proposed and possible solutions that have come up. There's a balance side on app and NAIC as well. In the paper, I present 12 apps and 15 NAIC positions. That is just scratching the surface of brainstorming what students could possibly debate. The NAIC can easily run CPs, DAs, perms, Ks. They could run economy, troops, containment DAs, militarism, feminism, UN counterplans, peacekeeping counterplans, you name it, it could be run on the topic. Why is it relevant? It is the longest standing conflict in the world today. And we know it's not going to be solved by a simple debate round in a high school setting, but feel like that it has never been a subject of national policy debate, or the Middle East as a whole has never been the subject of a national policy debate. And we feel it is time. We should not shy away from this subject just because it might be controversial. We feel, in fact, that students actually are better at arguing controversial topics than some adults can be. They are more open-minded. This topic also involves human rights, history, religion, international interest, global conflict, women's rights, you name it, environmental impacts, devolution, and so much more that students can tap into. We also feel like the topic is to promote respect and empathy towards other religious and cultural beliefs. That's the main goal. We want to bring in controversial topics. We feel like there is no necessarily safe topic in debate. We all know that it usually ends up in nuclear war, right? I mean, that's every debater's dream, and you get to bring that in.
You're at time.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Latin America. And
Yes, so this was a student-driven topic, primarily written the whole process for the students. I was kind of the shepherd there. It really is a student-first topic. The students went through the process of doing everything from writing the topic paper to selecting the topic. And one of the things that they found, and that I think is really important, is there's a difference between an interesting topic and a valuable topic and a debatable topic. And so they went through not only various topics that they were interested in, they went through a litany of different topic papers to see, and they really wanted to find a topic and write a topic that allowed for debates, that made, for example, one of the goals that they wanted, or I should say we wanted, because I was a part of this, the affirmative to have to do something that is unpopular, right? And create a sort of core controversy. For example, the resolution that we're proposing would have the federal government increase their presence either through democracy promotion or military operations in South America. I think it's pretty safe to say that's fairly unpopular. It would be a pretty big change from the way that things are currently done. There are a litany of other reasons, but it is also very timely as the state of democracy and institutions in Latin America are in a very precarious spot that would enable a litany of both accessible but also in-depth debates about various parts of democracy, but also institutions, the things needed to ensure that they are resilient.
The United States federal government owns nearly 30% of the land area of the United States. It's a pretty startling statistic, and unless you've done some research in this topic area, which most of our students and most of you probably haven't, it's probably not something you realize, because I didn't realize it either. I mean, I know there's all those national parks out of the West and stuff, and I visited those and talked a bit about those experiences in my paper, but the range of things involved with federal land is simply enormous, and there's something for everyone. Just this past few weeks, there were the floods in Yellowstone, having done damage that's going to last for years and will take huge amounts of money to like rebuild roads if in fact they ever decide to do that. There's the fires that nearly took out the sequoias in California. There's, all kinds of issues relating to mines on federal land that have allowed the water to leach into, or allowed the poisons to leach into the groundwater, especially on reservations involving indigenous persons. And those are only some of the current event issues relating to this. The fact is, there have been battles for centuries, literally, between ranchers and people who want to use the land for recreation and people who want to preserve the land for future generations. The differences between a national park, a national monument, a national recreation area, national forest, and just land the federal government owns that they lease mining rights and timber removal rights and all that sort of thing. It's a tremendous area. There's a huge number of things people can talk about, obviously enough to last an entire year. I think one of the things I really wanted to focus on though in this paper was on topics that were actually going to focus debate on the actual thing we're talking about, which is the management and the protection of federal land. So the way I framed the resolutions for your consideration is either in opposing, this is the thing the federal government could do for that, or the government should increase protection, which obviously means other things can't happen, or many other fine and exciting things we can talk about later.
Before I start, I'm obviously not Devnal. He had a 16-hour flight delay courtesy of United Airlines. He asked me to present. South Asia consists of 6 to 8 countries: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and maybe Afghanistan and the Maldives. This set of countries has appeared in one resolution, 1992 to 1993, well before any current debaters were born. The topic proposes increasing military engagement with the region. There are 3 major justifications for a South Asia topic. 1, it's timely and evolving set of current events. 2, it's a novel area for the policy debate community. And 3, it can support all kinds of debates. First, it's current and evolving, but will likely remain controversial in a year. Recent events make the topic especially timely. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, America's pivot to Asia and Biden's implementation of it, rising regional terrorism, and domestic political events in India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, to name a few. Despite all of this, it seems unlikely that America significantly increases defense cooperation with the region. Second, it's new to the policy debate community. The core topic controversies have been discussed in earlier resolutions, but never treated centrally. It's also a rich literature base for critical debates. Many authors have discussed colonialism and Orientalism in the region. And of course, the topic provides a valuable access point for South Asian students, an enormous minority group of the community. Third, and most importantly, it provides a simple but deep controversy for a year of debate. Affirmatives have a variety of mechanisms but must remain under defense cooperation, which provides some basis for negative counterplans and arguments. The neg will always have a China disadvantage and a regional relations disadvantage. Because the debates are simple, novice debaters can grasp core controversies, and lay debaters can construct straightforward and accessible strategies. With South Asia, there's truly something for every type of debate.
So the idea of this topic came from me selfishly wanted to kind of rock the boat, changing the actor that has always been the United States federal government to something that was a little bit more nuanced. But then I realized that reality rocks the boat a lot better than I can. So we've seen Supreme Court being a huge major factor in a lot of the topics that have already been discussed, but particularly with public health, that's really more of a homage to financial and pathways from cancer. And I realized that the public health sector itself is really complicated, and we've had a long history of the Supreme Court making decisions on public health for centuries. Like even in the early 1900s, they made a ruling which was that you could be seen as crazy, and that was enough for justification for lobotomies and things like that. So the Supreme Court has been a backbone for a lot of ways that people and individuals have been treated, and especially now with the whole Roe versus Wade reversal, we've seen that the Supreme Court is still a major factor in public health. ACA was a topic that was presented a couple of years ago. The Supreme Court was also a paper proposal presented a couple of years ago. that also highlights this fact. But more than anything, I think the topic is really interesting because a lot of debaters have aspirations of becoming lawyers. And if anything, with the whole this spring showing that, death versus heard, court cases and Supreme Court in the discussion of precedents and how we apply those are now publicized and are on TV and YouTube. And we're seeing more and more interest in how the Supreme Court, but just the court system works in general. And so with public health, I wanted to focus on drug pricing, on insurance. These are things that have been hot topics for a long time. And really what I'm hoping is just for guidance on making a wording of the resolution that's what we encompasses that whole idea. The topic is mostly that like BGP and any sort of all the way in the world. So thank you.
Both now is both going to the Marshall subcommittees. Those of you who have been to this process before, Marshall subcommittees are led by our wording committee members. So they've divided up amongst 4 different groups. You'll be in these groups. Note to everyone on group 4, if you're in the Westport room, that is on the 3rd floor. If you go up the elevator, it's the first room right outside the elevator, so you'll find that. I'm going to turn this over to Colton for a moment so you can tell him the goals of wording of the Marshall.
All right, so the goal of the Marshall subcommittees is for you all to come up with a working wording of the resolution so that we all reconvene tomorrow in the general or in the wording committee session. We have something to work with. It's ideal, any conversations that you have about debatability or accessibility or questions about that, to maximize our time tomorrow, those conversations should probably be localized to the Marshall subcommittee so that we can focus more on just wording and not having to entertain like what novice debates look like under a certain topic or whatever. That's not like any shade to anybody, like that's normally a question I have to like what a little baby's gonna do. But yeah, just make sure, also topic authors, you'll be expected to sort of give a somewhat longer spiel, and then after your spiel, sort of start, hey, this resolution number 2 is one that I think will work. That would also help us out a lot if you know where you all are the experts on your topics. So you tell us what the best starting point is. That'll make our jobs a lot easier. But so working resolution and also anything about debatability, like all that jazz needs to happen there to maximize our time. Okay. Thank you.
All right, before we break, we have a message from the hotel. The air conditioner is not working in Roanoke. So if you are in the Roanoke room, you're gonna go to ballroom E, which is right next door. With it being 100 degrees outside, we'll thank the hotel for making that change. You got where you're at, Union Hill, West Point, Rockville, and Roanoke are here, now ballroom E. You've got where you're at, and here's the list. What we'll do is we will take a 10-minute break before we start. So we'll start right around 2 o'clock in those rooms, and then we'll be back in here. We'll check in each room somewhere between 3:30 and 4. So if your room needs more time, we've got more time. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy your Marshall subcommittees. Okay, you ready? Everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed your time in the Marshall subcommittees. We do have a few more people who have joined us from the great state of Texas. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves for now being here. That's fair.
I'm Nicole Fortis from Texas. I coach at Apple.
Great. And you're over here now.
I definitely serve. High school.
Great. Anybody else speak in?
Yeah, Preston School team, I'm all from Texas, from St. Private.
Right, and anybody else sneak in here in the meantime? All right, welcome everybody. Glad to have you here and you finally arrived safely, even though you have some crazy travel stories. We hear those at dinner time tonight. All right, so what's gonna happen now is we're gonna go to the Marshall subcommittees. We're gonna show each resolution that's been passed by the Marshall subcommittees. And the wording committee member who was in that room will be going ahead and giving us the review of what happened in the room, as well as the resolved topic. So here we go, starting off. Well, and then what will happen is after we do all of these, we go into a straw vote. So we'll do the review of all of them, and then we'll go back to the top of the list again. We'll do a hand straw vote on how many people are to advance. Just a reminder, we have to have 25% support for each one. That's a pretty attainable bar for most topic papers, unless it's a big structural issue. So go ahead and vote on the ones you would like to do. So starting off with aging in America. Yes, ma'am.
Will everybody sending out this list after we're done?
Oh.
We don't have to copy all of these.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, don't worry about writing these down.
Okay.
Okay, so the first resolution we came up with was resolve the United States federal government should substantially increase its healthcare services for elderly persons in the United States. We had a pretty lengthy discussion in our session about the use of the word elderly, and we were talking about, do we include elderly, do we say individuals over 65? We also talked about, do we want to include Medicare specifically, or just include healthcare services in general? But this is what we did come up with. We decided just to stick with the word elderly. Some people felt that it was a derogatory term. It might be something that's debated. But that's pretty much where we ended up with the first one.
Okay. Next one is agricultural subsidies.
Okay, agricultural subsidies. So the resolution we decided on was resolved. The United States federal government should substantially decrease its agricultural subsidies for domestic agriculture. One of the questions that we were back and forth about was, does this include tariffs? So we were debating about, do we include the word direct right before agricultural subsidies? And we decided to take that word out, but just something for consideration. Do you think this should include the word, should this include tariffs under the discussion or not?
Okay.
Let's get to that. Kevin, feel free to jump in on this.
nope, you're doing good. Our third one's actually down on the list.
Our third one was managing and protecting federal lands. So we decided on resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase the protection of existing federal lands. So we had some discussion about whether to put the word existing in front of federal lands. And we decided that we really did need to emphasize the word existing federal lands. So. We had a lot of great discussion in our session. All right, thanks to all the topic writers in our group that presented.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Meaning.
civil rights reform.
All right, shout out to Omar. Civil rights reform, as you see here, we had a lot of good discussion. One of the biggest conversations we had though was about one of the earlier resolutions included like an amendment to the Constitution, and that begs a lot of questions about how FBI sort of operates there. So this is what we came up with. USFG substantially, actually, no, it's not agreed, we're all adults here. All right, so this is what we came up with for civil rights reform. Next week, James. Climate change. Shout out to Brett and the other campus folk that helped him out on this one. So here we had a lot of discussions about the topic. I think Dustin wrote in a few years ago dealt with market-based regulations, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a discussion about that. To my understanding, Brett has so graciously agreed to look up if market-based is something that should not be included, and also on versus greenhouse gas emissions, because there were not enough grammarians when we brought that. Hammer that down. And the other one we had was economic inequality. Once again, shout out to Brett. We also thought that past topics or past iterations of this topic sometimes take us debate or possibly debate things like SNAP, EBT, stuff like that. So I think everyone in the room was sort of in agreement that this is a much more palatable economic inequality topic. We included the fiscal redistribution, added federal jobs guarantee. So we started with the third resolution from the paper, and then this is what we came up with. Shout out to group 2.
Internet reform.
All right, thank you to everyone in our group. Really appreciate all the feedback and help that I think got us to really nice resolutions in this. So thank you so much. For internet reform, we decided to kind of narrow the scope of the topic. It was a really interesting topic. There were just some things that we felt that needed maybe more of a limit. And so this is the iteration that we will be posting for tomorrow. We wanted to kind of focus on 3 really important things the authors for really helping us kind of decide the 3 big issues. And that's child protection, misinformation, and social media. We also removed some other things, for instance, that are being discussed in this topic this year for NATO, for instance, AI. And then if we are doing a cryptocurrency topic, that may be eliminating that provision as well, because that's also a huge topic. So our goal in the committee was to narrow it down, as well as making sure the author's intent of the resolution is still there, and the purpose of the paper, which we discussed, those very important topics. Cryptocurrency regulation, we decided that just kind of some changes in terms of the parallel language, as well as the object. Thank you, Cam, for helping us out with the grammar on this resolution. But basically, it's the idea where we want to limit out, just like someone being like, all right, cool, debate coin. Let's say Copeland and I made it, anyone can make a token. So, you know, what about an app that just eliminates a very minute token? That would be checked by substantial. And also the idea that regulations that use to exchange cryptocurrencies would allow, for instance, a ban if you wanted to go in that direction on, for instance, like Bitcoin, that's a substantial token, but would eliminate, you know, really minute regulations that would only affect like very small amounts of people. And then we also wanted to have a regulatory framework that applies to the transactional nature of certain cryptocurrencies as opposed to the ecosystems and non-fungible token exchanges and airdrops, things that happen in terms of NFTs. So we believe that this resolution supports the advancement or the debate against a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency. And I think, do you want to do
Which one?
the last one? Yeah, public health.
Thanks again for the topic authors in our group.
All right, boss. Good. So we removed the Supreme Court, a couple reasons, like some of us love to have the Supreme Court being active. It's just always really hard to sell to get to the final 5, and then even harder to sell to get the top 2 or the final 1. So we felt it's probably best to remove it. Plus, there's a lot of questions about how much pressure is there, circulating areas that we want to get it down to. And then we narrowed it down to direct pricing, medical plans, including the healthcare industry and Medicare, which makes it the ginormous topic. So we thought, limited this, what topic author mainly focused on pharmaceuticals was best to be paid. think this is the next one. Elections and democracy reform.
So this one was easier for us to parse through from the language in the topic. We took a modified version of the first resolution. And we got rid of foreign electoral intervention as an area because it could work in both, I think, we said campaign finance and electoral integrity. And then we had a long conversation about the word strengthening in front of voting rights because that was the only section that had the modifier. And then we ended up putting strengthening in as the verb instead of increase. And that's for Israel Palestine, we had kind of a question of looking at either a generic engagement mechanism toward Israel and Palestine, or the use of something like confidence building measures as a tool. There was a lot of conversation about the importance of including the affirmative including actions towards both parties as part of the act in terms of attempting to resolve the long-standing conflict. We also decided to take the phrase Israeli-Palestinian conflict out of the resolution because we can play the lovely game of like T what pop. That's Latin America. This one, it is the first resolution from the paper in terms of using both democracy promotion and or military operations. And there were two questions that that the author is going to kind of look at tonight is, do we need to not use the Northern Triangle's geographic region, but use the individual names of countries instead? And then the second question would be, do we need to use the formal names of the countries since we've done that in past papers or past resolutions? And we want kids to mispronounce the word international. And then the last one is South Asia. This is the first resolution from the paper. The only change that was made was, I think it was from with to within. The author is going to look at that as a phrase tonight to see if it changes the nature of how you interact with the countries. There was a lot of questions about whether or not it becomes too big in terms of the different countries that are or are not included in the region. So there were questions about whether or not, we needed to worry about the size and things like that. So really, we're just looking at the back phrase to make sure, like, we can do it within South Asia, but that means when they council, what kind of, how cleaning and the China will be on board. We had lost the group as much as they tried to keep us on time. We received, but and we had some very, very good conversations on each one. So it was a fun room, although we almost got cracked on the third floor trading.
Thank you. Managing, protecting federal lands. Oh, sorry. Which one do we have left? Is that all? All right. Awesome. Great. When they go out of order, I don't do as well. All right, so now what we're gonna be doing is doing our straw poll vote. This is the last thing we have between us and dinner. So if I can have Kevin, if you want to count that half, I'll count this half. And like I said, we need to get 25% for everything to advance to borrow. Everyone in this room is allowed to vote. It's not a delegate vote. And all the votes we have moving forward until Sunday are everyone votes. And then Sunday we go down to delegate only.
Define half, how are you?
From
Split.
Pam, that.
Okay, good deal.
I'll get it
So
from,
this way with Craig, you're this way with Ruth.
You're on the south.
And Mike's in between.
yeah, we're splitting up Kansas.
Or can I just go on the stop?
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah. All right, I do need to read all the resolutions verbatim on here, to go forward. So resolve, the United States federal government to substantially increase its healthcare services for elderly persons in the United States. To advance to tomorrow, please raise your hand. That's 25%. Agricultural subsidies. Resolve, the United States federal government to substantially decrease its agricultural subsidies for domestic agriculture. Raise your hand for tomorrow. Okay. Civil rights reform. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase civil rights protections in one or more of the following: ability, age, gender, race, religion, sexual identity. Raise your hand and continue tomorrow. Okay. Climate change. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase restrictions on greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. Raise your hand for tomorrow. Okay. Comprehensive internet reform. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase its regulation of the internet in one or more of the following: child protection, misinformation, social media. Raise your hand for tomorrow. Okay. Cryptocurrency regulations. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase regulations on the use and exchange of cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens in the United States. Raise your hand for tomorrow. We're getting closer. All right. If you are voting, raise your hand high so we can see it. Economic inequality. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially increase fiscal redistribution in one or more of the following: federal jobs guarantee, universal basic income, expanded social security in the United States. Raise your hand for tomorrow. It's better, thank you. I know our arms are getting tired, so we can do this. Elections, democracy reform. Resolve, the United States federal government should substantially strengthen its regulation of elections in one or more of the following areas: drawing of legislative districts, campaign finance, electoral integrity, and voting rights. Raise your hand for tomorrow. Okay. Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We have two of these, so this is a little bit funky. So wording committee tomorrow is going to have to really nail this down right away and then work one. We have resolved, the United States federal government should substantially increase its diplomatic and or economic engagement toward the state of Israel and the state of Palestine. Or the United States federal government should substantially increase its use of confidence building measures between the state of Israel and the state of Palestine. Raise your hand if you want to see the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. Okay, so wording committee, we've got some discussion at breakfast. Latin America. Resolved, the United States federal government substantially increases democracy promotion and or military operations in one or more of the following: Bolivia, Colombia, and Northern Triangle of Central America. Raise your hand. Advance tomorrow. Okay. Managing and protecting federal lands. Resolved, the United States federal government should substantially increase its protection of existing federal lands. Raise your hand to advance tomorrow. Okay. South Asia. Resolved, the United States federal government should substantially increase its defense cooperation within South Asia. Raise your hand for advancements tomorrow. Okay. And finally, medical industry. Resolved, the United States federal government should substantially increase regulations on drug pricing and or medical patents. Raise your hand for advancements tomorrow. Okay. So all these will go on to tomorrow. Here's what tomorrow looks like. We have a 7:30 a.m. breakfast for all attendees in this room. There'll be a buffet breakfast in the morning. Please come help yourself eat a lot, because the way buffets work is they have a lot more than what we've ordered. So make sure you eat it all. And then at 8:30, when you're half comatose, we're gonna be in here ready for the wording committee to start their work. I will say on this one at the 8:30 meeting, it is very important that as many attendees as possible can attend this meeting for the day. Should attend the meeting for the day, especially if you're a voting delegate. It's really strongly recommended to be here. But I think this is the most fascinating conversation you'll hear of the weekend. It'll be starting at 8:30 tomorrow, continuing on throughout the day. We will be having a lunch for everyone as well. Lunch will be around noon, depending on how tightly Colton sticks us on time. We'll have lunch around noon tomorrow. Also out there, you'll get your meal, bring it here and eat, and then they'll bus this area. At 1 o'clock, the resolution wording committee will review. Then we have to have a second straw poll vote to 33% to move on to Sunday morning balloting. And hopefully, this is all pending the amount of callbacks we have tomorrow. We'll be able to explore beautiful Kansas City at 155,000 degrees at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That's supposed to be a cringe. All right, it will be warm tomorrow, so please make sure you do hydrate properly if you do go out and explore Kansas. Here is the timeline for tomorrow. So topic authors, please make sure you are here and ready to jump at the end of the table tomorrow at your designated time. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's on the thing already. So this thing here will, we have every 25 minutes will become the topics. We're starting with aging in America, going down. A reminder, this title has changed to health industry. I won't change it on here, but just know that that is the new title. And then we'll start callbacks at 3:15 if needed. So topic authors come really prepared. I know I'm speaking for Colt, but do come prepared to really have that engaging conversation with the wording committee and be ready to have an efficient but effective conversation. Colt, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, also, this is the time to get your phones out, scan the QR code. We are already starting the process for next year. And so if you would like to submit a topic to be discussed at next year's meeting, scan this QR code, be needed by 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that'll be the area where we start having a vote on papers to be done for next year. I give this to you today, so while we are at dinner and you're like, oh, I've got a great idea for a topic for next year, you can just fill it out at dinner time. So I'll wait for all the phones to go down once they get to warm up. Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So it is now 4:12, which is amazing. And so we have Craig, if you want to come up here and talk about tonight at the bus pickup. I know I talked about it this morning, we're going to do it more time. He's also going to talk about another thing he'd like you to do tomorrow.
Yeah, if you would all please wear your polo tomorrow, at least for a picture. You want to do that at the beginning of the day or whatever? Maybe during a break, we'll do it first break or something.
They are white, Craig, so the earlier the better. Man. Yeah, before I feed my shirt.
Let's see here. Yeah, so please wear your polo tomorrow. Can we see a show of hands? How many people are actually using our transportation today? And then that way we can see if we need to get another Uber or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 18, 19, 20, 21.